Good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m., Wednesday, June 19th, 2024, and we're convening a regular meeting of the Cogite Schools Board of Education. We are in the Bonneray Media Center in the Professional Development Room. Mr. Muccio, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Decker.
Here.
Mrs. Etter.
Here.
Ms. Prouse.
Here.
Mr. Dobbins.
Here. 4 present, 1 absent, although I understand Mr. Souchaki's en route. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome our students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. The board values and encourages public comment on education issues. Anyone having an interest in the actions of the board may participate during the public comments portion of this meeting. Please identify yourself on the board sign-in sheet. A copy of the board meeting agenda is available to review on our school district's website. And would you please silence your cell phones during this meeting? Would you now join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So may I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Decker moves, I'll second. Are there any additions, changes, Mr. Evans, Mr. Muccio?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we can move to a vote, please.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye,
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Ms. Prouse.
Aye.
motion passes 4-0. We're moving on to agenda item number 3, and that's presentations, and I turn the program over to Mr. Evans.
And I'm going to turn over to Mr. Young to talk about our DPIA funds plan that needs to be board approved.
All right, thank you very much. So in the state of Ohio, we have funds called Student Wellness and Success, as well as Disadvantaged People Impact Aid. These are grant funds that we receive on an annual basis. If you open the attachment, you will see that for the DPIA allocation, that value is $29,300.50. Success funds, the Student Wellness and Success funds are $33,645.21. This is nothing you have to apply for. You just receive the funding, and you have to spend it by June 30th of 2025. There have been some changes this year to some of the requirements, and that is why we're having this small presentation. As we found yesterday, as we were going through to do the compliance survey that you're supposed to do, Ohio law requires districts and schools to develop a plan outlining how they will use the DPIA and Student Wellness and Success funds. Additionally, districts and schools are required to share the Student Wellness and Success funds plan at a public meeting of the Board of Education or governing authority, and post the plan on the district's or school's website within 30 days of the creation or amendment of the plan, and within the data collection tool that we have to verify how we're using the funds, it actually requires us to provide a link to our website, as well as list the date at which we went over the plan and presented it at a board meeting. There are specific uses and allocations that you have to use, so you can't spend it on anything this year. One of the big pieces, it says districts and schools must use at least 50% of the Student Wellness and Success funds for mental health services or physical health services, healthcare services, or a combination of both. If you go to the Department of Education and Workforce's website, on these types of funds, it actually lists, you can see over here to the side, for those that can view this, mental health services, physical health services, culturally appropriate prevention services, homeless youth services, child welfare involved youth services, community liaison programming, family engagement activities, before and after school programs, reading improvement and interventions, school day and school year, instructional technology or blended learning, professional development, dropout prevention, school safety, community learning centers, academic interventions, and employment of bright new leaders for Ohio. All of those categories have very specific uses. You can't just, for reading, improvement, and intervention, use it for any of your grade bands. All right, it has to be very specific. It has to be hiring reading or literacy specialists to increase academic achievement or reduce reading disparities that align to evidence-based strategies for effective literacy and instruction. So when you read through these and we look at our plan, we have to be very specific in what we're doing. And as you can see in our plan, this is outlining how we are using those funds based on the allowable uses and expenditures. Mr. Muccio, Mr. Burek helped with this particular plan. We do have the mental health services to the tune of $33,645.21. That's out of the $36,120.67. We are using more than 50% of those funds on mental health services, additional funds on physical health services and dropout prevention, as well as instructional technology, services for child welfare, and community liaisons and programming. So this plan is outlining how we have planned to use the funding as it aligns to what the requirements are of the Department of Education and Workforce. While we're at it, all of our federal funds, or at least I know a couple for sure, IDEA, and I believe Title I as well, but we might as well apply this to all of our federal funds. That would also include Title II and Title IV. Require that we receive throughout the school year community feedback on particular uses of those funds. We will certainly take the feedback. It doesn't mean that that's how we will use the funds, but we do have to and welcome any feedback. And we plan to have that as part of our verbiage on board agendas moving forward at our work sessions. That we will welcome any feedback on uses of our federal funds, as is required for a couple of them. So that's something we're going to start doing to be in compliance with federal law. So I'm making that statement while I'm at it. Do you have any questions on this? I don't want to take too much longer. As I know, Mr. Suchaki had wanted Mr. Hartman to present, even though it wasn't on here. We had a technology committee meeting yesterday, and he had wanted Mr. Hartman to present. Is that correct?
Yeah,
On the contents of that meeting, and he had a presentation put together for you. So would you mind if we go ahead and transition to that? I'll pull open the presentation and
Just one quick question.
go
So
from there.
some of these are, or maybe all of them, they're not necessarily new expenses. It's more just mapping what we already spend to these
Depending
specific
on what it is,
grants. But-
especially when it comes to
okay.
personnel, you cannot supplant what you already have in place.
Okay,
Right? You have to be careful that if you're going to use it for personnel, you're using it for new personnel, not some service that you already had in place. That's tends
Got
to be
it.
a violation of the state and federal funds. So,
but in other cases, we maybe are spending, but we're just showing how we're using the federal. money.
yes, yeah, if we have, we had a student in elementary school that required physical health services. That was a new student to the district. We contracted an outside vendor that allows us to have a community liaison, and that was a new expense to the district, and so it was appropriate to allocate those funds for the service of that particular student at that time. If the student had already been in the district and we had already, for example, PSI, we already have a school nurse and a student health assistant, we could not,
Can't use the
even
money
though
for
that's an
that.
allowable
Got it.
expense, we didn't add those two individuals as a result of having these funds. They were already in place, so we cannot use the funds for that. So it's a great question, and it's something we always have to be mindful and cognizant of. It goes deeply into special education and things like maintenance of effort and things like that as well. So,
It's one of the first questions the school districts ask as the grant funds come across. Can they supplant, or does it have to be new? So that's something that all districts need to know up front. Because quite honestly, a lot of districts would prefer to supplant current
Sure.
expenses
Yeah.
if they can.
hello everyone. Mr. Suchaki invited me to give a quick state of the IT department just after we went over the technology committee. We touched on a variety of topics, so we'll just go through real quick some of them. End of the year overview, some of the hardware projects, phone system update, E-rate update, finishing that project, some security updates we're doing, and a new website that's coming out. To this year, we've completed about over 2,000 tickets. We've inventoried almost 400 assets, about 380 assets. Staff and parent reviews, every time a ticket gets done, we send a survey or half the time out to people saying, what was your rate out of 5? Between parents and staff, it's averaging 4.8, so everyone's really happy. Implemented facilities IQ ticket system, so now our maintenance department is also on a ticket system, so everything is tracked and we can just further make decisions using information we get. Transportation department is also now in that as well, so everything's kind of wrapping all up into one nice big system. We've done, continued to do our classroom conversions. Elementary school is classroom conversions this year alone in the summer, and we've been running new network lines to all the new access points for all of our new systems. There's some images of all the classrooms that have been updated. Some of them are on Samsung TVs, and some of them are on the new CleverTouch TVs. These are touchscreen displays that let everyone go up and do multi-point touch. Phones. The big thing that is coming this year, it's actually coming up in August, is our call manager needs to be updated. This is an end-of-life hardware. It is something that we can't prolong by buying new licenses. It is end-of-life and they don't support it anymore. So we're going to recommend that we go through with Neonet, as they are managing a lot of our networking already, and they've already assisted us with E-rate, so they're pretty familiar with our networking. They also assist us with phone issues already through incidents that happen. Alone, it'll save us $10,000 just in phone costs, because we'll be switching our phone lines from AT&T to Neonet. But we'll still have all the same phone lines and same phone numbers and everything. The E-rate update, we have completed the one-to-one switch replacement, so all the switches in the district have been replaced with a brand new system. And any of the old equipment that is up to current standards will be reused throughout the district in either the auditorium or the bus garages, for instance. Access points, we've replaced every access point in the district, and we are currently adding more. So this summer, we'll be finishing up with Neonet and completing the outside roundabout and the stadium. So now everyone watching the game will be able to get some good internet. Security update, we are continuing to add more fobbable entrances to the school system. The transportation department actually moved over by the wood shop. That's an entrance that everyone just wants to be able to enter for the bus drivers, so we're making that fobbable. We're using a grant to complete that. And we've installed 4 new security cameras in the middle school. And we're going to be adding 3 more and a bunch of outside ones for the rest of the summer. Here are some of the ones that we've actually added this summer. So a lot clearer. We're trying to target places that have the old cameras and just update it to HD and kind of get everything ready. Security update 2. This summer we'll also be becoming multi-factor authentication. This will help increase our cyber liability from about $50,000 to $1 million, just alone from whenever a teacher signs in, they're going to have to just, yes, that's me signing in. Some of you might already have it with your phone, where if you sign in somewhere, you hit yes, that's me, or you get a 6-digit code. It'll be something we implement this year, and we're going to test it this year with the admin over the summer. Generator, we're also looking into that to cover the server room and ancillary closets, the chillers, coolers to keep the food, and sewage pumps to keep the bathrooms open. Quotes are currently being acquired right now while we're looking into that. Website, we are currently in the process of designing our new website, so that will be launching in the beginning of July. App is in development, so that means on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store, you will have the ability to download the app. It'll have the little CH on it. It will have all of the newsletters, all of the communications, all of the chats. There's an app that we use currently for teacher to staff communicate, or teacher to student communication, called Remind. And we will be going to Rooms, which is the same thing, just all under our website. So everything will be under one app: parents, teachers, staff. It'll be way more under one umbrella.
Purchased by another company, so it's going to be phased out.
What got purchased?
It's called Remind. It's a way to,
We use one call now for a lot of district notifications. We'll be able to push everything out through the website then, instead of one call now. So next winter, when Mr. Young has to call the snow day, which he's already guaranteed he's gonna call a lot of, he can do that. I'll be sleeping.
Nice. Come over and watch my kids.
That can all be done through the website. So it centralizes about 4 different communication pieces for us. And actually, our communications team has used this with other districts, and they were instrumental in kind of helping us take a look at it, because with the other districts they use it with, it really, it's good bang for the buck.
What's the successor to Remind? What's that entity going to be called?
It'll be called Rooms. It'll just be a different category under the app. So you'll have the website, you'll have the newsletter, and you'll have Rooms for the staff.
Okay.
And everything is tied in through our school information system. So every night, student and staff data will be updated. So now nobody will ever miss a snow day call. And just a loose schedule. Coming up for this summer, we're going to wrap up most of our hardware by the end of June. We're going to start software projects. We're planning to have everything completed by August 5th. Staff come back, so in new team orientation. We'll do some staff trainings. We're going to have things for like Remind and all the new software we're implementing, so we're planning out trainings on those days. And then, hard to believe it, but 8/22 is when school starts. And that's just a quick update on the IT department. Any questions?
And how are you going to get the word out to parents, staff, and community members that use these various,
So we're importing all of our old communications. So so One Call Now, Constant Contact, everything is being downloaded. So everybody who's currently in our newsletter will be getting an e-blast about it. We'll make sure to put something in for students when they go out, just saying, hey, the new website, go there. You can find our app. We'll be sure to promote that in like the new, I believe, district highlights.
Yeah, one of the things that we intend to do is create how-to videos
Okay.
using Screencastify. So how do you access rooms, how do you complete final forms, how do you call your student off, while accessing all those things through this new website. So we're gonna be very busy creating these little how-to, 30-second to 1-minute how-tos. So
And-
we really wanna make sure that we bridge that communication gap as best as we can.
So this
Okay,
is just a quick
great,
preview of the website. Typical video. We're going to have all the direct links. Everything we're going to try really hard to keep within 3 clicks. Has every news, all the events going on, and some promo that we can go ahead and talk about our district. We're going to have how-tos, so everybody's going to be able to do how do you do this. Parents are going to have every question answered for them. Everything's going to be hopefully in 3 clicks. So it's going to be a really nice system. All right.
thank you. Let the record show that Mr. Souchaki joined the meeting at 6:11. Cool. Thank you, Mr. Hartman. We're on agenda item 4, comments from the public, I believe.
Comments from?
Yeah.
Item number 4, comments from the public. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the board at this time?
Nobody signed in.
Nobody signed in. Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 5, treasurer's business.
Thank you, Mr. Souchaki. Tonight I ask for items 5A, 6A through 6N for approval.
Entertain a motion for those items.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dobbins. Second by Ms. Braust. Any discussion?
Yep, we have quite a bit of items, but that's because we're closing one fiscal year and beginning another. Starting with item 6A, purchase orders over 5,000. We have quite a bit, but again, that's due to the blankets, majority of blanket purchase orders that we have for new fiscal year 25, starting 7/1. If we click on that lead sheet T2, we can see the list of purchase orders that we have, and I'll just go through these kind of quick. Number 1, Language Learning Association, that's for therapy services, super blanket PO, $244,532.88. If there are any questions, please feel free to stop me as I go. Gordon Food Service, that's for cafeteria lunch products, fiscal year 25 super blanket PO, and that's for $90,500. Number 3, Various, that's for our fuel and oil for all vehicles, fiscal 25 super blanket PO, $80,000. Enos Britton, General Legal Services, fiscal year 25 super blanket PO for $50,000. Number 5, Brinza McIntyre Seed, that's for tax legal services, fiscal 25 super blanket PO for $45,000. Now, all these amounts that we have match with our 5-year forecast budgets that we have in place, so they conform, and they're all reasonable. We usually spend in that ballpark, give or take, and anything we don't just goes back into the general fund. Number 6 is the Illuminating Company. That's for our electric utilities, fiscal 25 blanket PO, $185,000. Number 7, Xerox Corporation. That's for our copier lease, blanket PO, $23,604. ComDoc. That's for our copier and printer monthly cost, $19,500 blanket PO. Number 9, Curriculum Associates. That's for our iReady software renewal, $14,414.50. Number 10, New Dairy Holdco. That's for our cafeteria milk. That's $10,000 blanket PO. Number 11, CDWG. That's for our Microsoft licensing, $7,462.80. Number 12, Pay Schools. That's for our lunch and fee processing system renewal, $6,625. Number 13, Incident IQ. That's for our technology and facilities software help desk, $5,199.52. News to You is number 14. That's for our special education software. That's $5,167.52. Number 15 is Securitas Technology Corporation. That's for our alarm monitoring service, blanket PO. That's $5,160.48. TPC Food Service, that's for lunch trays, bowls, napkins, plastic utensils, etc. Blanket PO, that's $7,500. Number 17, Division of Water, that's for our water utility, that's blanket PO, $35,000. Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, that's our sewer utility, blanket PO, $75,000. HDC, that's our automation lights service, blanket PO, $10,500. PSI Affiliates, that's for our sub-registered nurse, blanket PO, $6,378.75. The Elevator Corp., that's for our elevator services, $5,445.60. East Ohio Gas, that's for our natural gas transportation utility, $30,000 blanket PO. Ohio Schools Council, that's for natural gas, the actual commodity, that's $60,000 blanket PO. Only two more, 24, SC Strategic Solutions, that's for our SC View annual charges, that's the treasurer's office software, so requisitions, check printing, time clock, $10,990. Last one, Pasanic Partners, that's for our cafeteria menu, dietitian, nutrition services, $9,900 blanket PO. B, we just have one new vendor. That is for CLET World Languages, an approximate cost of $300 for French class books. Moving on, C would be a modification to the appropriations for fiscal year '24. We just have two. Number one is increasing Fund 22. That's our district agency fund, increasing it by $3,000 for more, and it's going from $61,000 about, and that's due to more OHSAA tournaments, such as cheerleading, soccer, track, and volleyball. And the other one is an increase of $14,740 to Fund 499, which is our miscellaneous state grants, and that's due to the BWC HVAC grant that we accepted at the last board meeting in May. D is going to be our temporary appropriations for the new fiscal year, fiscal '25. And if everybody opens that attachment, I just wanted to point out the general fund. So our general fund is our largest fund, approximately 95% of what we spend on, and that amount is $19,960. Excuse me, $19,960,293. And if we scroll down to page 2, that matches to line 5.050, which is our total expenditures in our May 2024 5-year forecast. So that's where we get that number and put it in. Now this is our temporary appropriations. We do our permanent appropriations around September. Any questions? Okay, keep rolling. The next one is our property insurance renewal with Sorsa. We bid out services last year, and Sorsa came in as the lowest. The total amount is going to be $112,128, and that's a sizable increase from what it was prior year, which was approximately $93,000. That in part is due to more schools, because we're in a consortium, and it's similar to healthcare. More schools are making claims of the pool, as well as costs to fix items are up. So the cost of materials and services, as well as lawsuits that other schools in the consortium are in. So if a school is in a lawsuit, they settle or whatnot, the insurance company's paying for that, in turn has to be fulfilled that way, so.
Did we have any claims this year?
Minor ones we did. I can get back to you on that question.
Okay.
Our letter F is going to be an addendum to our Red Tree agreement. So they asked all of their clients in the state for this. The total cost to us annually is going to be approximately $300. So all that they're changing their practice. Before, they're the company that invests a certain portion of our portfolio, around $4 to $5 million. And before, they used to cover the costs of U.S. Bank. No longer. They're going to pass that cost along to all of their clients. And it's going to be approximately $5 per month for each million. So we have about $5 million, and that's about $25 a month that they're going to charge us in fees. So that's where the $300 comes from, times 12.
Can't
So.
believe that.
Yeah, they're doing that for everybody. So if we want to keep using them for investments, that's
They
the
got
cost.
millions of our dollars.
They do.
And they're
I know.
charging us this fee.
Nickels and dimes, I know. pennies, according to it. We have numerous new grants that we're accepting. G is going to be our fiscal 25 idea, and that amount is $152,433.44 for the new year. Now, that amount's going to change. Mr. Young, we know we're going to be working on the CCIP. We're working on it to get our substantially approved date for fiscal 25. The next one, H, is Title I for fiscal 25. That is $67,020 and change. I is Title II. That's $10,275 and change. J is Title IV. That's $10,000. And in the public content, I put, what we plan to use it on, supplies, equipment, educational services each. K is going to be our IDEA Early Childhood Special Education grant. That's $1,590.21. I is going to be approving transfers. We have 3, and the note, all of these transfer out amounts total $200,000, and they match our May 2024 5-year forecast amount for what we plan. The only thing is I switched $10,000 from one to the other, but the overall cost is still $200,000. $90,000 going from the general fund over to the athletic fund, $70,000 going from the general fund over to the food service fund, 006, and $40,000 going from the general fund to the permanent improvement fund, 003. And that's to complete the fiscal 24 set-aside requirement that we have, which is approximately $163,000 that we have to put in as far as revenue. And that comes from ODE, and there are the 2 methodologies for set-asides, and we go with the one. M is going to be advances. This is the same resolution language that we passed last year, June 21st of 2023. It just says that if we have any grant funds, we just temporarily advance money over from the general fund and then move that money back early on in next fiscal year. And the last item is we just have a then and now certificate, and that is for our lightning event management. That's for our OSHA track meet. Those are the items I have for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the treasurer?
I just wanted to congratulate and extend our appreciation to everyone who had a hand in securing all this grant money. As I understand it, it's roughly around $250,000, which is no small sum. So thank you to everyone who's had a hand in that.
Yes.
We're very appreciative of, all the grant funds that we have, and, we try to spend every penny of that, man.
Which is good. Anything else? Hearing none, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Ms. Prowse.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Moving on to section 8, treasurer discussion and comments.
And just 2 items. As I was mentioning, we're working on closing fiscal year 24, so that officially ends June 30th. So we're working on closing out purchase orders, paying remaining invoices, closing out our grants, reviewing all of our accounts budgets. Maintenance of effort is a large task that we're working on. Reviewing GAAP as we're going to get ready to work with our auditors, and we're finalizing end-of-year reports to both the Cuyahoga County Budget Commission as well as the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. And then for fiscal 25, we're starting to begin that. That starts July 1st. So we're working on, going to be working on new payroll contracts, sending out salary notices, entering all the new accounts and budgets, entering new purchase orders, and new grants, just some of the items that we have. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on to section 9, superintendent's business.
Right, I asked that section 9A, 10A, 11A through K, and 12A through K be approved on the consent agenda.
I'll entertain a motion for the superintendent's consent agenda, please.
So moved?
Mr. Dobbins moves. We're in a rut tonight. Mr. Evans?
Okay, Mr. Young will be participating in the new superintendent's program provided by BASA this year, and you can see the agenda as it's laid out, and it's kind of a little bit of actually a cost savings for us, because then now you don't have to pay for his registration for the BASA Fall Conference, because that's included in that. 10A, accept the resignation of Kelsey Mason, a high school math teacher. Kelsey's heading back to Olmsted Falls, where she taught previously. 11A, approve the employment of assistant superintendent. See the contract in there for Mr. Burek as assistant superintendent. Approve the reemployment of Director of Athletics, Mr. Kelber. You see his contract attached as well. Approve employment of Elena Scotton as Dean of Students for 24-25 school year. D, approve the employment of the Director of IT, Mr. Moore, his contract in there as well. The reemployment of the IT Support Specialist, that's Mr. Hartman's contract. Reemployment of Logan Diedrich as an IT Support Specialist intern for 24-25, his contract is attached. Approve the employment of Mr. Jordan Sadler, high school math teacher, 24-25 school year. Jordan is here with us tonight. He'll replace Mrs. Mason. Jordan did his student teaching here and was excited about the opportunity to come back to Cuyahoga Heights. H, approve Melissa Meadwell, District Library Media Specialist for 24-25. That's to replace Mrs. Bergen. Mrs. Meadwell snuck in the back there. She didn't have enough time with me the last 2 days doing the Chase negotiation. She decided to show up for a board meeting too. I approve the employment of Leanne Candow as long-term sub-teacher for 24-25. Jordan Gentili has filled this role for us the last 2 years. Jordan got a full-time teaching position in Euclid, and this makes Mr. Young look like a genius because the way that the long-term subs are timed out next year, this will keep Mrs. Candow busy almost the entire year solid, based on,
Matched up
all the pregnancies are matched up, so.
So I coordinated that with our staff to make sure that
Which has never happened in any school district ever, so.
You know, one of those babies is gonna throw you.
Yeah, something's gonna go on with
One
that.
of those kids is gonna come early.
Update the supplemental position contracts for 24-25 and transportation contracts for 24-25, letter K. Under 12, the CHAT agreement for its approval, it's ratified by CHAT by a vote of 63-0. Approve extended time for the interim principal, 5-day time for Mr. Kiefer to help us with the overlap. Interdistrict agreement with the ESC in Northeast Ohio, that's our blanket agreement with the ESC for services. Annual dues for the Coalition for Equity and Act, this is the lawsuit, the voucher program with the state. Update administrative supervisor exempt classified employee schedule, there's two things in there. The addition of Juneteenth into that, as it will be in both collective bargaining agreements, as well as the 27th pay option, which will appear in both collective bargaining agreements as they're approved as well. So we matching the exempt benefit packages up with what Chase and Chat will have in their contracts. Contract with Trinity for football facilities rental. You see there's Mr. Kelber got a nice little increase in that. And I believe, I didn't look at the dates, I believe they're going to play on all Saturday afternoons this year. So
There are other dates.
are there?
Yeah, there's some Fridays in there.
Okay. Agreement with Aramark Sports Entertainment Service to reserve venue for the prom, that's the Cleveland Brown Stadium. Contract with LLA, additional professional services required by district students. PSI changes form, that's for some additional nursing, I believe. HDC Building Automation Services, that's the head ed to come in and work on our automation services to make sure that we keep a very antiquated system functioning, so we have air conditioning when we need it, like today.
Like today.
So I ask for those items to be approved.
Okay, do we have any questions for?
Yes, I've got a question for Mr. Evans and probably also for Mr. Young, and that is that I note that in this evening's agenda, there are several changes in our administrative structure, and I'd like to know if either gentleman could give the public a brief update as to the rationale and kind of the thinking behind the changes that we should expect as a district. And I note that Ms. Scotton is going to join us is proposed to join us as the Dean of Students, and I would just appreciate some discussion of those items. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Young.
I'll take it away. And all of this builds off of what Mr. Evans has built in his 9 years as superintendent here. It's trying to continue to keep the continuity and some of the vision that we had to really focus our efforts on our students, keep the focus in the classroom with our staff. Very fortunate to have two new teachers here tonight. You guys are the ones that make the magic happen, and we feel we have very qualified people to replace people that were highly qualified and successful. And I would recommend that you not walk in their shoes or walk in their shadow, but walk in your own shoes and cast your own shadows. But responsibilities, and that's a fact. Every public school has the same accountability. And Mr. Muccio will tell you in the treasurer's office, being small doesn't mean that he doesn't have the same responsibilities from a management auditing standpoint. He's got 3 employees up there that help, including himself, help him do that. So essentially what you see here in this organizational structure, in my role as assistant superintendent, I've been the curriculum director, the testing coordinator. I have worked primarily in HR. I have been a compliance officer for the district. I've been the transportation coordinator. I do all the grants and verification along with Mr. Muccio. And then I've supported Mr. Evans with buildings and grounds and the food service. I also support Mr. Moore, Mr. Hartman in the technology department. And those are responsibilities that primarily now go to a different individual. Although I keep the human resource piece and I keep the curriculum instruction, assessment, and this verification piece. What the assistant superintendent will now have that it didn't have before is the director of student services, which in almost any other school district, that's a lone individual because special education is a monumental undertaking. It's appropriate, but it's a monumental undertaking. And so now that goes over to the assistant superintendent. And as I said, for myself, replacing Mr. Evans, I will continue to take the curriculum, the instruction, the assessment, the human resource management, the communications and public relations, the strategic planning, and then I will oversee our brand new elementary principal. Will work directly with Mr. Dietre in the middle school and high school. And a position that we are adding that we didn't have, Mr. Burek has approved. Mr. Burek would no longer be the assistant principal piece of his job would go away. That's been a 6 through 12 position. Before it was a 6 through 12 position with athletic director. We pulled the athletic director piece away, and that's when Mr. Kelber came in. But we replaced that with student services because Mr. Burek had 17 years in special education prior to coming to Cuyahoga Heights. So he has almost 3 decades in special education. So it makes sense for that piece to stay there. But we're not replacing that position as an assistant principal position. We want this to be a very student-focused position called a dean of students, which some school districts have. It's not uncommon to have that. It's one that will focus on supporting students in every aspect of their journey, their academics, their behavior, their social and emotional, pre-kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So we're bridging the gap. One of the things that we heard, and we spent a year and a half over at the elementary school, we understand that those students have needs too when it comes to their behaviors and some of the disciplinary things that can pull you as the head principal away. This will provide some support for those students as well, working very closely with those principals, with the assistant superintendent, with myself, to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our kids across the district from a more fundamental standpoint. That's all that person's going to be doing. They're not going to have to worry about evaluations. They're not going to have to worry about some of the coverages that you typically have to cover throughout the school year. It is 100% student-focused, working with our staff with a team approach to help our kids be successful, to keep our kids in school when they do get in trouble. Discipline means to educate. We want to make sure we're educating our kids so that we don't have repeat problems. So it's something that we see as very vital to bridge some of the gaps that we're still seeing from COVID. Mrs. Scotton also has a special education background, and we know that special education is a model that works for all students. You apply special education philosophies to all students, it works for all students. And I think that's important because you're looking at the kid more holistically. And I think that's going to be something that's going to complement us. And it's something that I think is needed.
I think it provides some continuity with our PBIS on a pre-K through 12 as well.
Positive behavior interventions.
Which is then Mrs. Scotton will then see that through on all 3 levels as well.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation, and I appreciate the amount of time and effort that so many people have invested to kind of rationalize our system to requirements that are at the state and the federal level, and to try and optimize our resource allocation, given that we're such a small district, but I do
You'll notice
appreciate
that
it.
Mr. Kelber, part of his new contract tonight is he is now the attendance officer for the school district. That is, at the elementary school, been managed by Mrs. Satter. She's the school counselor. She's done a great job of getting our numbers back down to manageable levels, but those kids need her for other reasons, not to manage attendance. And this is something Mr. Kelber, with his administrative license, is going to help us do. This shouldn't detract too much from his athletic responsibilities, much different than when he was doing student discipline all day long, and then you were here for 6 hours a night. You know, it was a position that needed to be broken up, but now we're adding something back to Mr. Kelber, who will work with the dean of students as well to support kids and getting them to school.
There's a reporting aspect to the attendance as well, and Mr. Kelber has administrative licensure, which makes that a little bit of a smoother transition for us versus having a counselor do that.
Thank you, I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other discussions? Okay.
Once you vote on it, I want to recognize some people that are in the audience here, but I
Yes,
don't want to be presumptuous.
that's true. Good point. Will the treasurer please call the roll?
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Ms. Prowse.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, I'd like to recognize a few, we have some of the people as guests. Mrs. Scotton's here with her husband. Her husband's also an educator. I'm gonna take a cheap shot at Alex Weiser. He was a wrestler for the school down the road. I don't think we ever beat Alex as a wrestler. We did beat him in football, but we didn't beat him as a wrestler. Congratulations, our new dean of dean of students there. Mrs. Meadwell, as I said, she didn't get enough with the Chase negotiations the last 2 days. She decided to show up for another hour or so meeting, but she'll be transitioning into the Mrs. Bergen's role. And Mr. Young is even tweaking that a little bit as we talked a little bit about that with Mrs. Meadwell today. That'll have some tweaks to it as we move forward as well. So we're happy to have Mrs. Meadwell and Jordan Sadler here as well. As I said, Jordan, we kind of stored him away from the school where he was born and raised. And he's a Brunswick student in high school, and he was back there teaching. But he had such a positive experience in his student teaching here with Mr. Durazio. He was very excited at the opportunity to come back to Cuyahoga Heights and play a role there. And Mr. Burke, who hasn't gotten much sun lately, filling his new role as assistant superintendent. And Matt Hartman's in the back. We approved Matt's contract for 3 years there. So those are some of the people that were affected by the motion that you just passed. So thank you to all for being here tonight, and congratulations. And
Anybody else want to say anything about your new positions or anything? Please feel free.
I don't think they do.
Oh, I think they're just all stressed out of what's coming. Oh,
Well, yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody for approving us. I think with this role of Dean of Students, it's going to be so extraordinary to truly impact every child from pre-K all the way to 12. I'm coming from a role where I only have about 6 students, and to go from 6 to all of our kids is really something that is going to make my heart soar. And I know that we all love Cuyahoga Heights. I love it as well, and I look forward to serving in this role. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
thank you for taking it.
Thank you.
Okay. Section 14, superintendent discussion and comment.
when you get to the board section, I'd like the board to discuss moving the July 17th board meeting to a 6 PM start, up from 7 to 6. Mrs. That guy's here.
I'm gonna have a hard time that day.
Okay.
I was gonna ask if we can, either I miss it or have a different day, if we can. I'm not gonna make that day.
Move it off that date.
Yes.
Possibility you may have.
Well, it would, because that's a great point, because moving it may help us, because quite honestly, Chase, we wrapped up, we obtained an agreement with with their contract today, we just spent almost 9 hours the last 2 days, locked up in my office, hammering out an agreement with Chase, and they need to ratify first, so it's in their hands. I just updated it and got it out to them, so they'll have to ratify that. And once that's done, I would ask for a special, if we don't move this date, or ask for a special meeting to approve that contract, so that gives Mr. Muccio more time to get ready to make it a July 1 transition. So we don't have to, he doesn't have to calculate any back pay or anything, so we're ready to go July 1. There's also a possibility of another contract that would come in that would need approval, that could be added to an agenda as well, that we're waiting on right now, a larger, what's that? The phone system, yeah. We don't, if the phone system, if we get an approval on the phone system, I would want to get that to the board again at a special meeting. So if we can combine that special meeting to do possibly the phone system and the Chase approval, quite honestly, we can do whatever we want in that special meeting, provided we list it in the meeting request. We just can't, once it's listed, we can't add to it. So if new things come in, we can't add 4 or 5 items. So we have to list our purpose for a special meeting, and we have to be detailed on what that purpose would be. So,
That would be before July 1.
No, not necessarily.
I thought we were trying to get it so that it would help.
because, no, there's a lag, because that contract doesn't get, there's a 2-week lag on the pay, so they don't get, that contract would go into effect July 1, but they wouldn't actually get paid until 2 weeks into
I don't
that.
think they're gonna be able to meet until July 1st because, Mrs. Harris, the president's out of town next week, so I think the earliest they can meet is July 1st.
Oh, I see.
And so if they ratify it on July 1st, then we could have a meeting at some point after that, a
Okay.
special meeting. Or if you move this regular meeting up a week to like 10, then maybe you could do all those things at one time. That's up to you and Mr. Muccio.
What, and I think Mr. Young just threw out a,
The 11th. Yeah, you get back. I'm on vacation till the 11th. I get back that night. Well, you just don't have,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to take any
So-
vacations anymore.
My 2 cents would be that we keep the meeting on the 17th. Jen, I know that might be hard for you, but, don't worry.
Keep it at
One
7
meeting.
o'clock. You said
Keep it.
2 to 7?
I can't do that evening at all.
No.
Right. Maybe we move that to 6, that July meeting, but then also for the special meeting, if we can have that the week of July 1st, preferably Wednesday the 3rd, it'd be very short, maybe like a 15-minute meeting,
Day before the
to
4th of
approve that
July.
Chase agreement. Then we would have it before the lag on payroll and give us enough time to get everything back.
and that would be a short meeting,
And the
because
phone one,
that would be a
too, as
limited
needed.
agenda, that would have the contract and maybe one
You
other
could do it at any time
contract
of
on it.
day,
So
too,
you could do
like
it,
early.
right, we've done those in the past in the morning before
7.
people went to work, sometimes we've done 7 a.m. meetings.
Oh,
No,
Offsite?
not even if Mrs. Prouse picks you up.
no. No. I'll be in my pajamas still.
Well, can we say tentatively for the 3rd, and then a time to be determined?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, one last thing, just, and if you're watching the news at all, there's a lot of crazy stuff on the news, because what's happening is the budgets are being done right now in the state, the annual budget, and this is where they start to gerrymander a little bit. So, all over the news yesterday was the religious release time, 4:45, during the school day. And what that bill says is that if a student has an hour open, or a half hour during the middle of the day, and they want to go to a religious education outside your district, that we would have to allow them. We couldn't deny them that. There's a lot of opposition by public education, obviously, and I'm not opposed to students getting religious education. My kids all went through PSR. It was outside the normal school day. This would be kind of embedding itself into the school day, and this is just another one of the voucher offshoot things. They're trying to get kids into their buildings, to sell their buildings, so they can start taking vouchers. So, but my fear is that this gets tagged on to a budget bill, and so I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on it. I talked to the legislative liaison to see if there's going to be, because the opponents haven't testified yet. They brought in 100 proponent testimonies, people to talk about the So that should have started taking place this year, but it gets a little bit scary in the next couple weeks as they start to approve the budgets, because this is when they start, this is where the academic distress got tagged on. Because academic distress never got any hearings, it got tagged onto a budget bill, and that was when Youngstown and Lorraine were put in academic distress without any hearings whatsoever, because they were dropped into a budget bill, and it took almost, 8 years or 9 years to get it undone. So the problem is, once it gets in, it becomes very problematic, so keeping an eye on that as we move forward. I will tell you that on the positive side, the vouchers, the coalition has won, every motion that the coalition has put forward on the vouchers we've won every motion. We're scheduled to go to court in November, and we think that the state's gonna really try to put a heavy stall on that, but that's scheduled for November 4th, to start to go to, and if you watch, I've been sending them along, but if you watch the news at all, districts are really jumping on board now. Upper Arlington did, a couple other big districts up here in Northeast Ohio have jumped on board of the vouchers as well. So that's a positive thing. And if you saw my post, I said, why isn't everybody a member of this? Every public school in the state of Ohio should be part of this lawsuit as well. So hopefully that keeps moving in a positive direction, and Bill Phillips and Mr. Dwyer stay strong with some of that stuff. So that's what I have right now.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Evans while we're here? Okay, moving on to section 15, possible board discussion items, and I think the first thing on the agenda, we need to make sure we know what we're doing in July for meetings, so, and I don't have my regular calendar in front of me, so our next meeting, tentatively, we're gonna have a special meeting on the 3rd at probably 6 o'clock, and then what is our regular meeting in the month of July? Is the 17th, and we're gonna move that one to 6 o'clock as well? Okay.
We didn't talk about a time on the 3rd.
Oh, we didn't, you're
We did
right.
not.
We didn't.
But we're talking about changing this
17th to 6.
to 6 PM as we did for tonight's meeting.
Yes.
Is that definite? You want me to?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out.
It works, both of those changes work for me.
It's, all that's okay for me too. We
I
know
will
you
not be
can't
either.
make the 17th at all. Yeah.
The 3rd.
Ooh, sorry.
That's right.
Maria, is that okay?
But,
Is it 6 o'clock for both of those, the 3rd and the 17th?
well, why do we want to meet so late on the 3rd?
Oh, you want to meet early? That's better? That's fine
Yeah,
with
it's the
me.
day
Wanna-
before the holiday, and it's something that's just,
Now I have to look at,
But
Ms.
you- would
Prowse,
you
are
be
you
working that day?
working?
I am working, but I can be flexible.
Okay.
So, especially if it's short, so we could do it over lunch, we could do it.
It's fine with me. I'll just be a little late swimming my laps, that's all.
Can we do it at noon and then?
Noon is fine.
What day does that fall on, the July 3rd? Is that a
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday? Okay, that
Wednesday.
would work for me.
Right,
It would?
that would be the
Yeah,
special
it would.
meeting. That would be,
but what
Provided-
works for you guys? Are you not, you won't even be here.
that's a work day. I'm here.
You're here?
Yeah.
It's a work day?
So that's, July 3rd's a work day for us.
Okay.
Definitely better for the administrative staff to do it during the day.
Is it easier to do it like at 9 o'clock in the morning?
No,
and
it's
so-
it's whatever's convenient. If you were, we can, ours, during the summer, we're bouncing stuff all over the place. So.
All right, keep you at noon on the 3rd? Sure. Okay, so special meeting, noon, July the 3rd, assuming that
And before we
the
post that,
contract's all ready.
I think we'll confirm with everybody that that's,
Yeah.
but again, it's dependent on Chase ratifying the contract, you know, by that time, so.
Right, right. And so tentative, and we couldn't, well, we can cancel without any time notification, right? I mean, we can't schedule a meeting in less than 48 hours, but we can cancel as necessary at any time. Am I correct on that? Okay, so if something should go wrong, we could cancel that. Okay, and obviously you need to make sure that it's okay with Chase and that we do that. So noon on the 3rd, and then 6 o'clock on the 17th in July. Any other board discussion items from anyone?
I did attend the Valley View Economic Development Committee meeting, and although nothing was decided upon, there was discussion involving 4 different businesses and their plans for expansion, either in their facilities or in their staff. and how that would affect the growth, economic growth in the village of Valley View. One of the companies, their grant is expiring and they wanted an even longer term than they had before. And one of the businesses is expanding like facility, like a whole nother facility. And then the other two were talking also about expansion in their staff. And one of the businesses also had, as part of its incentive to try to get this economic grant, actually like training that they would extend to the people in the community. That might be something for students also to take advantage of. So nothing, again, this was a discussion, nothing was decided upon, but it looks like, in the near future, we might have some economic development news coming out of Valley View.
Well, that's a good thing.
Did they have any TIF discussion about infrastructure in the Greenfield area on Canal Road? That was a conversation they had started a number of years ago, and then we never heard anything about it. They had sent us some initial plans about it, and then we never did hear if they approved that and went ahead with that.
That one I don't recall.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? I have a few items for the Career Center. I had to do something over the last few weeks that I've never done before, which is that to attend a funeral for a sitting board member. We lost a board member at the Career Center, Russ Fortledge, who was a board member in Independence for over 30 years and on the Career Center board for about 6 years. Born and raised in Independence his whole life. I've known Russ for about 20 years. His wife and my brother used to work together, and I met them at my brother's funeral. We've served as board members together at the Career Center for about 6 years, so that was a rather sad event. I did attend, they didn't have a wake, but they did have a funeral service, and I did attend that.
Russ's wife Carol's on the ESC board.
Right.
Has been for a long time.
Right, so,
So just as fine a people as you would ever want to meet the Fortledge family.
yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that, I forgot to mention that. A couple of other things from the Career Center. We have approval for a school year 25-26 start for the Parks and Environmental Services Program, trying to take advantage of the fact that there's a whole lot of land behind that building. I mean, you get in there and you drive back pretty far from the street, but there's a lot more behind it yet beyond the parking lots. And we're going to try to take advantage of some of that vacant land by adding Parks and Environmental Services. They've been working on that for a while, and now it's going to be starting on the 25th.
There was a nursery back there at one time.
Mhm.
When the horticulture program was there, that whole back area was all nursery.
Before my time. I missed that one.
I hate to say that I'm before your time at the Career Center. It's really kicking my shorts on that one.
We have some potential TIFs from Twinsburg and Richfield coming. Don't know yet when that'll be happening. And as you know, we're doing the work for the grant that we've received from the state to expand some of the programs in the building itself to accommodate more students, because we turn away students for almost every class every year. Virtually every class is full, which is a good thing that we have lots of students. It's a bad thing that we can't serve all of them, so unfortunate. And that's about all I have. That would move us on to future agenda items. Do we have anything for future agenda
I
items?
would ask that the board, and we had a discussion, we met with GPD, that the board form a committee, and it'd be a board committee. I know Mr. Suchaki and Mrs. Decker sat in on the initial meeting with GPD, but it would be a committee to evaluate the current status and the future of the pool and the pool structure. And I would recommend that be, if you two were amenable, because you just said that first part, but to set up a committee. And I would also recommend that obviously that administration sit on that, but we contact each of the 3 villages and ask them to have a representative from the villages on that committee, as well as opening up to parents in the community that have some interest in the pool and the swim, because I think that I think what became clear to us after the meeting with GPD is that we're kind of at a crossroads, and we really need to make some determination as to what, how, and maybe how much moving forward. Mr. Young's right, GPD has been a little bit vague on some timeframes, but that's what they're gonna do. They're not gonna tell you, we've got a year till the ventilation system falls into the pool. They're gonna tell us that things are structurally weak and we're in danger of, but I think that you really need to put a committee together to make some real hard decisions about what that looks like and develop a plan just for that structure, whatever it might be, whether it's tearing that structure down, whether it's redoing it, the pool, whether it's repurposing it, because we know the ventilation needs to be addressed in there, we know the hillside needs to be addressed, we know that there's voids underneath the pool, so there's pieces to the puzzle that all play into it, and I think that all has to be put together in a main plan just for that area. So, I would recommend that, and the second thing that I want to mention is a future agenda item. I'm going to bring forward the resolution that was originally passed with the sign usage. I'm going to tinker with that a little bit because the way that resolution reads, depending on how an auditor might read, is that the money can only be used on the football field itself. We haven't done that. The track, when it was replaced, was used as billboard money. And I know that some of that billboard money's been used other places in the athletic facility, but I want to take a look at that resolution and adjust it to say that once we've met our reserve to replace the football field, that the monies, because there's going to be additional monies, be used to upgrade the athletic facilities in general. So to encompass all so if we put a new scoreboard in and an auditor doesn't say, well, it says football field in here, the scoreboard's not part of the football field. We don't want to run into, I think that gives us some greater flexibility. It still speaks to the, why that resolution was passed in the first place, but it also, with the additional monies that we're gonna bring in, we will have more than met, I think right now, we almost are at a reserve to be able to replace that field, which is only in its third year, which this one was guaranteed 10. Last one was guaranteed 8, we got 10 out of this one's been guaranteed for 10. We believe we're gonna get at least 12 out of this one. So we'll have additional monies, and we would be able to do a scoreboard out of that funds if we write that if we do that with the resolution. So that's something you'll be getting from me. I'll send that resolution to you, and I'm going to work with John and how I want to make sure I tweak that and Mr. Muccio to make sure that we're meeting the needs of what the treasurer's office any scrutiny they might draw from an auditor when it came to that type of thing. So.
Do you anticipate that for the July
Yes,
meeting?
the regular meeting in July.
Okay.
And when do you expect to have the hangers, the quotes?
I would have hoped we had them a week ago. And I think I told Mr. Zerbola to reach out. We've got a couple engineering firms in the community to maybe reach out to them to see if they can help us. We're not getting a response as far as where to go from GPD. We've asked GPD for some people that would be able to do that for us. The problem is that everybody's on summer projects right now. We knew that with the late passage of the levy, we knew it was going to be hard to get even the hillside done. There was no way once that ball got rolling that we could get the hillside done because everybody's already committed to school projects during the summer. So we're still hopeful to get some response on the hangars, the support of the ventilation system.
Okay.
You would need that data at a meeting. If you put a pool committee together, you would need that data to help the decision process.
Right.
Yep.
And also the hillside repair,
Yeah.
which the pool itself affects the hillside because the weight of the water.
We've got the quotes on the hillside repair. The hillside repair, that would be something that, if the hillside repair was gonna be done next year, that you approve that in January, and then everything's in place, so when the students walk out the door, they can start pounding stuff into the hillside and be done by the end of the summer.
Right.
There's a timing component to that, but I think the lead time is the hard part about that. You want to, because everybody's just like us. They want work done at the schools when the buildings are empty. They don't want people around working in the buildings when the kids are in the buildings. The only bit of latitude we have is with the pool. We don't fill until October. So we have a little bit of time into the start of the school to still, so we could, if we got a project started in late August, they could work into late September, if it was re-supporting the hangars, if that's what we needed to do to make the pool functional for the school year, which I think is step one of a discussion.
Yeah, and we're not gonna have a committee together in time to do that, so,
No, we're still pushing that, still trying to figure that one out.
so we do need to figure out the hangars because that's important. I also wanna make sure that Mr. Young is involved in all aspects of this, because all of this happens, well, after you retire, Mr. Evans, and it's gonna fall in his lap, so I wanna make sure that Mr. Young is part of all of these items moving forward. An integral part.
Mr. Young volunteered me to come back and sit on the committee. I
Oh.
don't know if I could squeeze that into my busy schedule here in September and October.
You're welcome.
They
to
can
come
meet
back
on
for
your
any
back
committee meeting.
patio. You're fine.
Okay,
I'm
any,
gonna try to get the same tan Mr. Burek has. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, any other board discussion, future agenda items? All right, hearing none, moving on. It should be noted the Board of Education members received their agendas several days prior to the actual meeting, thus they have had considerable time, opportunity to study and ask questions and so on. Upcoming board meetings all here in the PDR room, July 17th at now 6 p.m. It shows 7 in the agenda, but we've decided to make that 6. Wednesday, August 7th, also at 6, and then August 21st, the day before school starts, if I remember correctly, at 7 p.m. And at this point, is there anything else to come before the board? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Oh,
Well, now
Ms.
that
Zatter
one, I
got it.
had no problem getting people to jump on. I think we'll give that one to Mrs. Decker. We'll let Mr. Dobbins second that
This is better, actually.
one. The treasurer, please call the roll.
Mrs. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins?
Aye.
Mrs. Etter?
Aye.
Ms. Prowse? Mr. Souchaki?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0 at 7:08. And